Let us pray. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of each and every heart be acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. So let's talk water today. Fact: water is absolutely essential to life on earth. Without it, life cannot exist. But because we're solid beings who spend most of our days on solid, dry land, we often don't take time out to ponder the fact that we are made mostly of water, and that the earth has more water than we can even comprehend. For those of us who have green thumbs, you're able to more obviously see just how essential water is to life. For those of us who have brown thumbs, well, we also know that reality a bit too well, but in the opposite. Fact: water is also the only substance that occurs naturally in the three phases: solid, liquid, and gas. When the temperatures are just right, water flows freely in its liquid form. In this part of the world, we tend to take water for granted. Most, if not all of us, can walk right up to a faucet, turn it on, and have water freely flow out. We can cook and bathe and wash hands and water gardens and do whatever we please with water. In other parts of this country and in the world, and this is a luxury that many other people do not have. Some have to limit their water to Some have to limit their water in its use because they have to walk many miles to go fetch water and lug it all the way back. Others have poisonous substances that accompany the water flowing into their homes and schools. Hashtag Flint, Michigan. In those situations, these people are a lot more careful about how they use up the water that's available to them. When intense heat is applied to water, it evaporates and it exists as a gas. Even though we don't see or feel it, water as a gas is just as present as water as a solid or a liquid. When the air becomes dry in the winter, some of us put liquid water into a humidifier so that it can turn into gas water to help keep the breathing air comfortable. For those of you who cook, although you may not think about it, you often encounter water as a gas when you boil it for pasta, or to steam vegetables, or to whatever you cooking types do with hot water on a stove. Finally, when it gets extremely cold, water becomes a solid. Very good. Many of us also have the luxury of turning our water into a solid so that we can keep our beverages cool for consumption. The only way I tend to tolerate drinking liquid water is if I have solid water in the cup with it. And an interesting side note, I don't like solid water in soda or other beverages that aren't water. Go figure. Water is resilient, and it is strong, and it is flexible. Water endures so many things that come its way. Of anything in this physical world, it has the best ability to adapt and fulfill its different roles for the different situations it's in. Water has the capacity to be and do whatever is needed in any given setting, which is one of the greatest and the worst things about water. It's great because of its flexibility and life-giving qualities. It's terrible because water can't be controlled. Of course, we can maybe temporarily control its conditions with different containers and levels of heat and cold, but even then, we don't get to decide when and how it moves or how it shifts its form from one into another. Now let's hang on to all of these facts about water for a few minutes while we delve into this morning's gospel reading from Luke. As we begin our Advent journey today, we're encouraged to remain watchful and ready for Christ's entrance into the world. Unlike some of the other Gospels, Luke focuses less on trying to calculate the time of Christ's arrival, and instead seems to be more concerned with who and how we need to be as followers in preparation for Christ's return. It's a subtle and an important difference, especially nowadays when the world seems to be speeding toward destruction, which for many is a clear sign that Christ is returning very soon. The way Luke tells it, Jesus urges his followers to be on your guard lest your spirits become bloated with indulgence, drunkenness, or worldly cares. That day will suddenly close in on you like a trap. It will come upon you, all who dwell on the face of the earth. So be on your watch. Pray constantly for the strength to escape whatever comes and to stand secure before the chosen one. These last few weeks, months even, I've fallen into this very trap that Luke talks about. You all have witnessed how my spirit was very much loaded and weighed down with the worries of this life. It seems with each day that passes, there have been more violent acts and more deaths and more tragedy and more debauchery that could very well continue to pile up and add to the already heavy weight of the signs pointing to the end of this world in various ways. And so, it is with a huge sigh of relief and gratitude that we're exploring Luke's Gospel on this first Sunday of Advent. In this section of the text, there's this kind of hope that's flexible and strong and resilient and ever-present as the water that is all around us. The way Luke shifts the question from when will this happen to how must we be while this happens, this becomes so empowering. It doesn't take away the suffering and the pain and the violence and the anger or the resentment, but it does lift some of the weight that comes along with all of that. Shifting the question brings about hope in a time filled with despair, helplessness, and tragedy of every variety. I am so very grateful for this timely message of hope that already exists in the world. A hope that is essential for all of life. The amazing kind of hope that Luke brings with this message resembles the quiet strength of water. This hope naturally comes in many forms. Sometimes when things are going just right, hope appears to graciously flow like liquid water. When our situations turn to one extreme or another, hope feels a lot less accessible to us. On the one hand, hope can feel just outside of our reach, frozen in a place we feel we just cannot access. On the other hand, as was the case for me these last few weeks, hope feels absent, like water in gas form. Luke brings our attention to this ever-present hope. Just as water never actually goes away as it cycles through its various forms, hope is here to stay. Though the details are different, Luke was writing to people who were in fear of the destruction and corruption all around them, just as we are in this day and age, steeped in these same kinds of fear. We can easily be overtaken by all the fear mainstream media feeds us, perpetuated by violence and acts of terror. We're called to notice the hope all around us, whether flowing freely or frozen solid or seemingly invisible. We are called upon not just to notice hope, but to also get to know it well. Put it on and cozy up with it. Hope, though quiet and unboasting, is a force powerful enough to stand up to fear and even eliminate it if we allow it. This is so important because our words and actions better resemble Christ when they're rooted in hope rather than in fear. When we become more in tune with the sometimes imperceptible presence of hope, it changes what we do and it even transforms who we are. When things are going just right, we can take hope for granted, even confusing it with optimism or the random magic of wishing upon a star. While we can't control hope, it is sure and it is stable and it is an ongoing presence as it gives it the power we need to get through even the toughest of our times. This water-like hope reminds us that no matter what difficulties may come our way, no matter what disasters destroy in its paths, no matter what calamities visit our communities, God is already there. A tiny piece of hope can drastically change a situation right before our eyes. Now imagine what a lot of hope can do. With Luke, I urge all of us to notice and to embrace hope in such a way that it becomes more natural to us than fear. Because if we had all discarded fear and replaced it with hope, evil forces could no longer have power over us in the way that fear allows it to now. Think about it. Without the power of fear at work, so much of this world would necessarily change for the better. With hope, fear is not and cannot be the last word. And so let us go into this week better tuned into hope. Let's notice it in the obvious and obscure ways that it presents itself to us. In fact, whenever we encounter water this week, whether in dirty dishwater or in the ice cubes in our beverages or in the steam produced by our cookware, let us get to know hope more intimately so that it can truly transform the entire world and maybe even us. Amen.